In industry, many facilities like mines, wind farms, and other sites are often located in remote areas far away from other infrastructure. And there are quite a few challenges that these environments present, such as staying connected on ground level, being exposed to challenging weather conditions, and ensuring that a qualified workforce is available at the right spot and the right time. But could advancements in technology, especially automation, help? Well, in this episode, we are going to look at how digitalization and automation help industrial facilities and infrastructures that are operating far away from everything be remote and yet never alone. So could automation help reduce human involvement in these complex environments? Would digitalization improve real-time decision-making? And will the safety of operations of these sites be enhanced as a result? We are going to be looking at all of this and more as we try to tackle the question, can industrial facilities be operated remotely? If so, which ones and how? I'm Fran Scott, and this is the Process Automation Podcast from ABB. We are going to be joined by Sanjeet Shawali, head of the digital business line at ABB Process Industries, and Johannes Sjöström, section manager for process control and analysis at Boliden. But joining us first is Mårten Sjöström, professor of signal processing at Mid-Sweden University. Now, when it comes to remote operations, they sound like something out of a science fiction movie. Could you tell us a little bit more about what it is that is meant by remote operations and where it all started?
It was science fiction in the sense that you could see in a lot of science fiction films about teleportation and transporting you to another place. But in remote operation, that's no real physical transfer, but rather a virtual transfer of a person to another remote location that enables some kind of operation, for instance, by a machinery that they have placed over there. So the aim is actually to make the operator have enough information of their remote location and sense in a way that it is at the other position and experiencing this. So this is what we try to do in our research, transferring sufficient information and about the remote location and do it fast enough so that you can actually control whatever machinery you have on the other side.
Understood. And so where was this first trialed in terms of what industries, and when did this all happen?
As far as I know, here in Sweden, the remote operation started within hydroelectric industry, meaning that they wanted to steer the amount of power produced in a water power plant without actually having to go there to the plant and adjust all the knobs and so on. Whereas today, the new technology, as you may know, enables us to do this remote presence and remote operations in many other solutions. So there are a lot of different industries today. That could be, for instance, within mine industry, where it has been tried out a bit, that you try to steer the trucks that are underground, where the people are sitting overground. It works at airports today, where you have the air traffic control of a remote airport, whereas the air traffic controller actually sits in a completely different location.
Got you. So remote operations, they don't have to be other sides of the planet. They can just be other sides of a cab. They can be close together or far away.
Yes. Exactly, because the incentive is not only to be far away from the actual happening or the machinery, because there are a lot of different reasons introducing this kind of operations, like personal safety, which is the case in the mine. After the blow in the mine, they have to knock down stones in order to see if to clear up the thing, and then you don't want persons to be nearby. Because it's a really dangerous location. So that's why they try to transfer the remote operation away from this dangerous place.
That's brilliant. And so when it comes to, I suppose, the specific technologies that go into remote operations, could you go into that a little bit for us and give us an example?
Yes. Well, we have been working in different projects here so far, and we just started a new one that is called the Immerse projects, which is in the Interreg Aurora program, which is in the northern parts of Sweden, Finland, and Norway. where we face the same challenges, where we have riches of natural resources, but the population is very sparse. So we need to have the competence going to the right place at the right time. So what we are looking at are different scenarios, and one of them is actually this remote operations, where you have some kind of machinery where you're sitting there. What we have developed is a 360 camera, a single 360 camera that transfer the information about the scene, so you can see everywhere around you. Now, that gives the possibility to look around in all different directions, what they call yaw, pitch, and rolls. It's different kinds of changing your head, but you cannot change the position of your head. That doesn't this system allow. So what we do is that we have tried to do the computations that mimics the placement of the head, meaning that we look at the scene from a slightly different position, having another view. Now, in principle, that's not possible with a 360 camera. So instead, we need to, what we say, hallucinate. We have to invent this, guess this on the scene itself. And that we do by introducing artificial neural networks. The neural networks, as you may know, is a system that mimics the brain neurons, but try to compute this new view using now more positions as possible.
Gosh, that is incredible. So just using one 360 camera, not only can you kind of look up and down and around and I suppose tilt from side to side, you can then move in effect where that camera is, not physically, but virtually, and it kind of fills in the gaps using AI. So zooming out, what are some of the key challenges that are faced when it comes to remote operations?
Well, it is still not an actual transfer of the person, and that of course will not happen, but it is not quite perfect yet, in the sense that we probably need to do it faster. It can also be thinking of that there is a limitation in the transfer of the information. So in order to transfer sufficiently enough of information to have a full understanding of the scene, you can compress the information, but you could also look into other ways of reducing the information on the sender side, and that is to increase the resolution of the image artificially on the receiver side, which we call super resolution. So you actually don't have the information in the same way as we don't have the view, but here we don't have the resolution. So we calculate in an artificial neural network a higher resolution.
Understood. So in terms of looking at remote operations as a whole, then when it comes to the challenges, it's about getting enough information to the user from this other location and getting it to that user in a way that makes sense and getting it in a way that they can see enough of the situation on site that it doesn't compromise safety. Up next, we have Sanjeet Shawali, Global Head of the Digital Business Line for ABB Process Industries. Now, his role covers digitalization aspects for industries such as mining, metals, pulp and paper, cement, and some other hybrid industries, including data centers and battery manufacturing within the remote operations landscape. I asked him to share some examples of what this actually looks like.
One of the biggest areas that digitalization has helped is bringing data together. So many sites, many customers have different systems, whether it's homegrown solutions, homegrown systems, or systems from different vendors. You're able to bring that data into one centralized location. That's a huge benefit. Of course, it has its challenges, don't get me wrong, but that is a big advantage right there. And then, of course, the safety of our people, especially in those hazardous areas, because now you're able to have remote operations. You're taking away our operators, our people from those hazardous areas and be able to move them into a centralized location, so away from that. I also think that where we see the improvements in the operations itself, because now you have this data. and you have the data across all these different systems, you're able to use that for better decision-making process. So that's another benefit. And maybe one final one is when you have the different facilities, different sites in a centralized location, you're able to benchmark different sites, which is very helpful for, the operations, especially from a management point of view.
And when you say data, what would be a specific example of the type of information that you're collecting?
Sustainability is a very good example. So when we're talking about energy usage across different sites, and you have energy data in different systems, whether it's emissions, whether it's usage of electricity, whatever it might be, different energy sources, and how you're utilizing it, that's one key area of getting that data. And now, of course, with the sustainability reporting, this even is more beneficial. Another area is just your regular operations, the throughput of your operations, the optimization of certain operations. When you have this data, that allows for you to actually see it and then you to make decisions on it. So I think those are specific operation KPIs that you're able to visualize, utilize, and then optimize.
So basically you're saying it could be anything from the gases emissions to the number of products produced per hour. It could be temperature, it could be sea level, it could be any kind of information.
It can also be like the other important aspects of the people in a certain location. You can track people in hazardous locations, so you know who is going into the facility, who's coming out.
And with people in mind, how could digitalization help when it comes to accessibility challenges?
I think now with different sensors, different, view into the operations, we're able to go into locations or we're able to measure things without having people there. But once you have the data, it's the people in your central control room, which could be many thousands of miles away, right? You're able to actually view this data. It isn't something that we were having before. And also, just when you talk about accessibility, it's also when you have this information at hand in a centralized location, that data, it also allows the faster training of people now without actually having to go to that site, right? So I think that's another important aspect which sometimes is overlooked.
Understood. So by not having to actually go to the specific location and instead doing it remotely means that not only can a wider range of people access that role, but also the training becomes a bit faster.
Exactly. And especially if you do have people at the location, and we can't say that's going to completely eliminate that immediately. I mean, we're going kind of from semi-autonomous to autonomous, in the future. You may have remote experts, people that are very knowledgeable on that operation, on that asset, remotely connect from anywhere in the world, okay, to help you support that site. I think that's another important benefit that our customers are seeing. I mean, the advantage we have is actually it's end to end. So we have what's very important that ABB has is the foundational infrastructure. So going back decades, right from the distributed control system, we've built applications on it. Those applications, like a manufacturing execution system, this is already there within our customers. This is something ABB has offered for quite some time. So we have that foundational infrastructure. Now we're able to leverage the newer technology. So we're offering that, whether it's going to the edge, whether it's going to the cloud, and then this remote operations we're talking about, the connectivity, the cybersecurity, all of that is something that ABB is offering. So we have the advantage, of course, because we've had the main infrastructure, what I call foundational infrastructure there from decades. Now the technology is coming and growing. So we're well positioned to provide the end-to-end. We also work with our customers to help define the roadmap, the actual strategy they want in their digitalization or digital transformation program, whatever you want to call it. So we work right from the beginning with the customer and then put a multi-year roadmap with them for that delivery.
Brilliant. And Sanjeet, when you say on the edge, is that in terms of referring to the remote location?
So some customers, whether they are not ready to go to the cloud, or it is from an infrastructure point of view, they have to stay on premise. So edge means that when I mention there's an automation layer, the distributed control system, for example, that's the operating system. Now with the edge technology, that edge allows for collection of this data as well. It's also more horsepower. It allows for analytics to happen at the edge. It is on premise. It's at the facility. And once you have that there, you can also then trigger this edge to cloud when they're ready for the cloud, if they want to go to the cloud. So edge is on premise, it's at the facility. And again, it's allowing for a lot more of the advanced technology, but again, at the site, at the facility.
Got ya. Now, when it comes to digitalization and automation, that has overcome a fair few challenges that the industry used to face, but they both come with their own set of new challenges, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And we face them, our customers face them, we're facing them all the time. I would say one of the biggest challenges we have, as much as I say that there's a big benefit in the data that we're collecting from different systems in a centralized manner. We talk about sustainability data, for example. What happens is that we're getting a lot of data. Now there's this, a very important aspect of this digitalization is we need to collect the right data, because the data that we're getting is overwhelming. So you have to choose which is the data you need. So there's that aspect. And also now with the technology advancing, once the customer starts to see the benefit of this, there's more and more data that they want to push. And so the more data you push, it can overload systems. They want it faster. So of course that comes with the evolution of the technology, but that is a challenge as well. Maybe the third challenge, and probably one of the biggest challenges, whether our customer faces it or we even face it, and that's really to do with the adoption of technology, the adoption of digitalization. You need quick wins. You need the operations, the people involved in the digitalization itself, for them to feel that they are part of that whole process. And if you cannot get the people to adopt to the digitalization, I mean, it's going to be very challenging. And that's why many projects have failed in the past.
Now, when it comes to people and the human workforce, what is their role in this sort of new iteration of operations?
Yeah, I think there is sometimes a misconception that with artificial intelligence or this advanced technologies that's coming in, it's going to replace my job. Now, what the reality is, it certainly will replace repetitive jobs, right? You're getting the benefit of that. But there is a benefit also for the employees, the people that, maybe used to do those repetitive jobs, into learning newer technologies, advancing their skills, because AI can only do so much. You have to guide AI, and that skill, and also understanding how this is implemented. How do we actually support these systems? So it's an opportunity for people to now advance their skill. And it is going to have to happen. There's no question that AI is going to take over some of the repetitive tasks, but you're going to have to now, incorporate that into your training program. And I think it's up to corporations to build that in and make it exciting. And that's also part of the adoption of this digitalization, which is going to help you succeed in those programs.
Thank you, Sanjeet. For our final guest, we are joined by Johannes Sjöström, Section Manager for Process Control and Analysis at Boliden. I asked him how digitalization has transformed the work he is doing within the mining industry. What are the challenges that you've encountered when implementing digital technologies within the mining sector, and how have you overcome these challenges?
Well, the big challenge is that you work in a certain way, and then you get the digital tool, and then you just start to do the same thing in the same way, but with a different tool. And I know you have discussed this on this podcast before, but like the difference between digitalization and digital transformation. So that's really a challenge to to really change the way we work to be optimal, considering all the new tools that are available to us, instead of just doing the same way as we always did, but with a digital tool. Also, we slightly need to change the way we approach like projects and development in these areas due to it being so fast. The development is so fast that you can't plan for a 2-year project and say that, okay, we're going to be finished with this in 2 years. By then, that technology might be obsolete. So you need to have a lot shorter cycle in development and in implementing solutions and getting it out in production and getting the feedback. So we tend to, from the technology side, to work in a more agile, like borrowing ways of working from the software industry, really, to be quicker, to get feedback and to keep improving, and also to get the value from that right away. So not to wait 2 years before you start getting value from your work. So that is a big thing, I think, that is changing, and it's only accelerating the technology development.
And that must be, quite the change for an industry that is millennia old, changing the way that it works at a microscopic level. Gosh, well done.
Well, we try.
Now, Sweden is notable on the international stage for working collaboratively within the industry and working harmoniously with competitors, partners, and suppliers. Now, do you consider collaboration essential for progress within the mining industry?
Yeah, at Boliden, we absolutely do. We're a quite small player on the international scene in mining, so we really need to be leading the way in utilizing technology to improve our productivity. And the best way to do that for us has been through a lot of collaborations with strong partners. Both other mining companies, we have quite a lot of work together with the Swedish LKAB, for instance, but also technology providers and suppliers like ABB and all of our other great partners. So that's like a strategy from Boliden to be a good partner in developing these technologies.
And could you describe a little bit more about the work that you are doing with ABB, and in particular the advanced process control and its role within Boliden's digitalization journey that you're on?
Yeah, and this is a topic that's very dear to my heart, so I like to talk about that for sure. We've had a quite significant project together with ABB where we first, in a simulation model, verified and benchmarked our current control versus a new advanced process control where we use a model-based control. I'll not go into the details of that, but it's the classical control has some inherent limitations that if you want to really take the next step in productivity, APC is oftentimes a necessary step. And it has been operational for some years now, and it's really working out well. We're seeing increased throughput and good grinding, utilizing the power that we have there. So it's been a very good project for us.
So with the advanced process control, it's basically about looking at the process as a whole rather than the individual parts of the process. And so with this advanced process control, you can see how they all affect each other and then make adjustments accordingly.
Yes, exactly. So now we have this APC controller for the entire grinding circuit, including several mills, and it's balancing this together. And I mean, ideally, we haven't come there yet, but ideally you could have one above that controlling the entire plant. So there is a lot of benefit in that, being aware of everything at the same time.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to mining and the advancement of mining, where do you see the long-term vision of this sector in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
I wouldn't dare say much about 20 years, but I mean, right now it's a big focus on electrification and automation. So most things are becoming electric, and that's a big area, of course, for us. That's the most impactful thing we can do about our CO2 emissions. So that's a big one. But then also we're going autonomous for most of like mine machinery and stuff like that, since we see big upsides in both safety, working environment, and in the end, productivity increase as well. And I mean, if you talk about sustainability, you can talk both about the CO2, that's one thing. But from my perspective, the most sustainable thing we can do in the mining is to take care of the ore that we actually take up from the ground, and to have a high recovery in our processing plants. That is, I mean, exactly that, to not have any precious metals go out as waste in our dams. And to have that really high recovery, you need a very optimal plant, and process control is really a key part of that.
And in terms of working in mining, will that work in itself be changing over the next decade? What will working in mining look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, and we're seeing that already, that we have less of these dangerous and manual tasks and moving more towards like remote operating stuff and more over managing an entire system instead of managing a single machine yourself. I think that's good also for personal development of personnel, so they can work on interesting things and do things where a human touch and a human mind is actually bringing more value than just repeating manual tasks. So I think that will change rapidly. And of course, the whole data discussion that we've sort of weaved in here, this conversation, is going to be very important in all of this. We do a lot of work also in data democratization, so to be able to bring the data to whoever in the company that needs it right there and then to make a decision. And through doing that, over time, we will have higher precision in our decisions, and in the end have better outcomes.
It sounds like times are changing. Johannes, are you excited by the future of the mining sector?
Yeah, I mean, working at technology department in a mining company, of course, I have to be excited. But I think it's a really interesting time to be working in this field, and a lot is happening. And I mean, industries are like learning and looking at each other to also accelerate further. And we are quite, for a mining company, I think, quite well positioned in the like AI space. We have our own AI program working with issues around that and setting up infrastructure to be able to handle those types of projects as well. So we're really working on a lot of interesting stuff.
So that is all we have got time for in this episode. Of course, a massive thank you to our guests today, Mårten Sjöström, Sanjeet Shawali, and Johannes Sjöström, for their brilliant insight and expertise. I'm Fran Scott, and the Process Automation Podcast is a Fresh Air production for ABB. Follow now for free wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.